All right, so back again after yet another little prolonged break there. Apologies for that. I was up here last weekend ready to put in some work and make some videos and shit, but it was my birthday weekend, so I was kind of short on time anyway. But one of the presents I got was this dope ass new office chair I'm sitting on for my wonderful wife. Thank you, babe. I love you very much. But after I put it together, I was gonna bring it up here to put it in the office, take my old chair out and stuff. Then I started just rearranging everything in here. If you can tell, I have a bit of a different setup than I normally do. Had to be sure though and bring Master Roshi over here with me, who used to be, kind of up on this side of the wall and whatever. And actually had this question come in a couple months ago, like right before I had that long breaking content, where somebody wanted to know, like, hey, what's that picture in the background? Looks cool. He wanted to know more about it. So it's Master Roshi from Dragon Ball, of course. This really dope artist I like a lot. Ozzy Oz the Virus is the guy that made it. He also made this dope ass shirt right here that I'm wearing. So really, go check out his stuff if you like anime or Dragon Ball stuff, man. He's like the best in my opinion. So definitely worth checking out. Jumping back into the book though. So now we're moving on to chapter 3, which is about the transition process. And here Frederick is talking about how the hypnagogic state is a very common state used by OBEers to purposely have an out-of-body experience, right? And he just makes a comment on something that is really, I guess, obvious, but just never really stuck out to me before. And that is, depending on what you pay attention to in the hypnagogic state can lead to very different experiences, right? Like whether it be visuals, which is what I have always just defaulted to, physical sensations, or auditory, right? And I've made a lot of videos and a lot of content on the hypnagogic state, something I'm very comfortable with and familiar with, but really only in like one particular aspect, and that's the visual aspect of it, right? I have talked a little bit about the physical side of it, but really the only time I ever really pay a lot of attention to the physical sensations in there, like the tingling or the buzzing sensation. He also has some other, I guess, common ways people describe it: vibrations, electricity, goosebumps, spinning, weightlessness, numbness, lightness, heaviness, sinking. There's a whole bunch of different ways to describe it in here. But the only time for me, since I'm just, I guess, so heavily visually oriented, the only time for me the physical sensations were very prominent and, easy or useful, or would make me even want to try to pay attention to it over the visuals, was when I was in a float tank, and I guess it makes sense, right? Sensory deprivation tank makes a lot of other sensations can stand out a lot more. So that's kind of where I've talked about it the most in the past. But it just was funny because it just made me realize that I spend so much time only focusing on one aspect of it. There's a lot of different aspects of the hypnagogic state that I am, not all that versed in. So gave me an opportunity to kind of think to go ahead and check it out. For the visuals, some of the ways he describes it are like whirling of colors, flashing lights, stars in the sky, points of lights, tunnel vision, and stuff like that. And I definitely agree with all of those, but also from my experience is it can actually lead to also just full on like pictures, right? Where it is kind of like a form of dreaming. I consider it to be, at least, where you can actually kind of like see the visuals, with your mind's eye. And it's not just stars. You can actually see like full on scenes where it's almost like, to me, like you're watching a screen or you're watching something. It's not like a dream where you're in it per se, although it can kind of get that deep, at certain points, but really leading into it, normally you'll start off with like the starry night sky, and that's kind of what I tend to see a lot, or the flashes of light. But then it can progress into full-on images, but you're not actually dreaming yet. Then when you do start to dream is when you could have what lucid dreamers would refer to as like wilds, right? Where you go from stage 1 of sleep, hypnagogic state, directly into REM, right? So you can go into a full-on dreaming state where, if you can catch the transition process in it, it'll be like you're sitting there, you're seeing a screen, but don't really feel like you're in it. Then all of a sudden you'll slip from, one state of sleep into another, and you can sometimes get this really cool, like, physical feeling of being sucked into it. And then, and then it's 3D. Now you're in it. Now it's look like waking reality. You can look around, you can fly off. Has a lot more of the actual physical sensations of a dream at that point, and then just do your regular, lucid dreaming shit. But also made me think too that perhaps if I paid attention more to the physical sensations of it, right, which it seems like is what more of the OBEers tend to focus on. They focus on all these vibrations and, bringing these points of lights up to certain parts of their body and doing all this other shit. Maybe if I did that more often, it might lead to a different type of experience, transitioning into what they would call an OBE, what I might call a dream, or, just transitioning out of the hypnagogic state. essentially. So I thought that was kind of neat and worth bringing up. And then for the auditory stuff too, and I know I made a video on this at some point in the past, but remember they would bring up how sometimes you could hear like these really loud, like metal screeching sounds, you know, like loud noises, roaring bells and shit. And I never had experiences like that. And that would just caught me off guard. So I was thinking like, you know, I'm just weird. I've been in that state so much, but I've never noticed it. To me, when I have auditory, you know, hallucinations or whatever you want to call it within the state, it tends to be like hearing my voice being called, or it's linked up to the visual that I'm seeing, right? So it starts off with me just kind of seeing it and not really necessarily hearing it, although I might be able to, you know in my head what's kind of going on. If there's some kind of conversation going on within the hypnagogic imagery, it's not like I full on hear it, but you can actually catch that transition sometimes where you know, it does become like a full on sound. And to me, that always just kind of indicates I'm getting deeper into it and I'm about to transition into REM, hopefully, and not into like, you know, stages 3, 4 sleep, or 2, 3, or 4 sleep, or whatever. But it go straight into REM, and then I could have an actual wild, right, or wake initiated lucid dream. But anyway, yeah, that's that.